So, hello. Today I have for you a book review, and that's going to be on the ship, The Girl Who Fell Beneath Fairyland and Led the Revels There. I don't have this book. I put it on the stack of free books that I have for my students, and I believe a freshman took it. But this is the second book in I think it's just called the Fairyland trilogy, or the first book, like, years ago, legitimately years ago, and so it was a little bit interesting to get back into it. But this series is about this girl September and her adventures from World War II era America, traveling to this mystical place called Fairyland, and they're very kind of mystically written, very much fairy tale-esque. The first book followed the first time she went there. This one follows a time where she goes back. However, things are kind of changing because all the magic is disappearing from the regular parts of Fairyland, and so she has to go to, like, kind of the Underdark situation. I know that's a D&D term, but like the Underdark area, and the person who is kind of defeat the person who is stopping the magic flow, pretty much. So I really adore the whimsy of these books. Like I said, they're very fairy tale-esque. They're very like Alice in Wonderland-esque, I would say. They're like a modern Alice in Wonderland story. And I really like how they're told and how they're written, because it does have that kind of self-referential, self-aware style to it. September is also such a fun main character. She's a little bit older in this one too. I mean, I'm assuming she's gonna get older as the books go on. I do believe that the books kind of change from her to a different main character at some point, but I know the third book at least has her as the main character still, which I do own the third book. I won all 3 books in this series like years and years ago in a giveaway. But she is such a fun main character. She's very strong, she's very brave, and she just is interesting. The series itself is so imaginative. Like, it has its own kind of logic, and I love it so much. Like, that is something I've seen a lot of times when we're talking about fantasy and stuff like that, where it's like, fantasy does not have to make sense by our standards, but it has to be consistent within itself. That's how magic has to work. And this series is definitely one of those things. Like, it does have its own sense of logic to it. And this is one of those series, one of those books where it is, a lot like more like off the rails than a lot of things, but it makes sense within its own context, which is the real important thing. It is written very thickly and descriptively, is the thing. Like, this is not, it's a middle grade series, but it is not a super light, easy to read, fluffy book. Like, it is definitely has some weight to the prose. Like, there's pretty thick paragraphs, a lot of like longer words. Like, it is middle grade, but it's middle grade for the smart kids, not for the dumb kids. It's a little mean, but it's the truth. Like, there's some middle grade that is very obviously easy to get through. This is not that. This is middle grade I would call it older middle grade, but maybe not quite, because kids they have so much more imagination pumped into their head that they have an easier time sometimes with stuff that they maybe don't quite understand, because they don't care as much as adults if they don't understand something. So yeah, there were some World War II feels. Like I said, the regular timeline in this book, it takes place during World War II. And it's not super, super obvious, but September does mention that her father is away at war and her mother is now working in a factory. And that's really, really interesting to me, because it's like, it does mention, like, yeah, no, now women are in the workforce, and that's what September's mother is doing, and she's waiting for her father to come home. And there was, I will say, there was some scenes about her father and, like, the horrors of war that were really, really interesting. I did really think that the author, Catheryne and Valente did a very good job with that, so that was cool. Overall, I do adore the series. I hope it doesn't take me another several years to get to book 3. But knowing me and my book wall, which is, at the point of filming this, 1,230 books, it's probably going to be a while. But I do love the series. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. That is all for today. I will talk to you later, and goodbye.